Welcome to this screencast on the Java Mission Control, the new Java Management Extension Console, which is in Java Update 40. My name is Roger Brinkley. Today we're going to talk about an overview of the Java Mission Control. We'll do an installation and usage, and then we'll walk through a couple of the tools that we have as well. So the overview. The purpose and the design of the Java Mission Control was really to provide a JDK profiling and diagnostic tool platform. The overall area in which it's going to be used primarily is in production use. But it does work pretty well in the development platforms as well, or development use as well. What it'll give you is some real-time monitoring of a variety of key indicators. You're going to see that within Mission Control itself. And then with the addition of Flight Recorder, you have the capability of doing some profiling and diagnostics, getting the events that are coming back from that as well. Now, the way this is implemented is with a focus on really low overhead. And that can be done primarily because a lot of what's being done was built into the JVM. It's already available in the runtime information. What we just have to do with Java Mission Control was be able to capture that information, but do it in such a way that it's a high performance implementation, doesn't impact your application as you're running it, so that we can actually attach it to an existing application. We can have the running of the application and not really affect your performance, or at least have a minimal effect on your performance. The platforms that are supported are the Windows and Linux x86, x64, and Mac OS X for the client. And then the server, additional support for Solaris x86, x64, and Spark. There are two main tools for Java Mission Control. They are the Management Console and the Flight Recorder. Now, the Management Console is really one of the most comprehensive Java management extension consoles that's available. You probably won't find anything that covers as many details as this particular one does. Then on top of that, you have the Flight Recorder, which is a built-in high-performance Java virtual machine event recorder, taking a look at what's happening on a regular basis going on with your particular application that you're running. The origins of this came from the JRocket Java Virtual Machine-based tool suite that was known as JRocket Mission Control. When Oracle acquired the Java language as part of one of its acquisitions, JRocket and Hotspot became a convergence. They converged JRocket and Hotspot into one common code base. And as part of that convergence, one of the things that needed to happen was that we needed to have support for JRocket Mission Control, and so renamed Java Mission Control and re-implemented so it would work into the Hotspot environment as well. If you're running on JRocket, you want to run this under, you want to run JRocket Mission Control 4.1, but if you're on the Hotspot environment, you want to run Java Mission Control 5.2 or later. The key part of all of this is that part of the integration, part of moving this together, is that this is now officially, everything has been converged and is now available in JDK 7 Update 40. So let's take a look at some installation and usage of this. So the Java Mission Control installation, the Java Mission Control client is actually a standalone client. And to be able to install it, all you have to do is install JDK at least 7.7U40 or later. It's in the same bin directory as Java, Java-C. You'll see that in just a few minutes. It's called JMC to be able to run that. The Eclipse version can be ran along with the Eclipse in the Eclipse environment as a plugin, and you can get installations of that from the OTN update site that's listed below. There are additionally some experimental plugins that you want to take a look at. These are already configured for use in the standalone client. And the installation of that is really simple. You just go choose help and then install new software. Again, with the Eclipse version, you can install those from the update site exactly the same as the one before. A little keynote here on the plugins, though, is that they're not thoroughly tested and they're also not supported. So use at your own risk. If you find a bug, certainly report it. They'll get to it as soon as they can get to it. But at this particular point in time, they are not tested. They're not supported. So use at your own risk. Now, starting the Java Mission Control client, Basically, all you have to do is double click on the launcher in bin. Now on Mac OS X, it's a little more complicated than that. And we'll go into that in just a minute. I'm going to show you that actually how that works. There's a variety of logging setting files in Java util logging format that can be specified from the preferences. You have window preferences, mission control, logging setting files. Those are basically the options that you would have here. More information about this, and actually more information on a lot of Java Mission Control, you can find at Marcus Hertz's blog. Specifically related to the log setting files, though, you'll find them in the article that's listed here. Now, let's go in and let's actually show you how you launch Mission Control. Now, you remember I told you that it's a little bit different on a Mac environment as far as how you're going to run or execute the installation, how you're going to install it, how you're going to run the Java Mission Control. So we take a look here. Now, normally what you would do is if you're working with any of the other Java commands, you would say something like Java / full version to get the full version of Java. And of course it comes up. And that's because when we look at where Java is located, it's in user bin Java. But unfortunately, when we do that with JMC, we find that the command is not found. And that's because the linkage that was necessary to connect where Java actually is, or in this case JMC, was not connected to user bin. So what we have to do is, if we look at a PWD, if we go to Library Java, Java Virtual Machines, JDK 1.7.0 _ build 40, .jdk/content/home/bin, then we can just do a ./JMC and we can start executing the Java Mission Control. And of course, you see right away, you know that it's starting to execute in there. Now I'm going to Control C that. I'm going to kill that process right there. And I'm going to go ahead and show you another way in which you can execute this. I'm going to go over here to Finder window, and I'm going to look in my hard drive. And in the hard drive, if we go to the library, drop down to Java, go to Java Virtual Machines, go to the 7U40 update, contents, home. Now I could go to bin just like I went over here and run JMX from there, but I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I'm going to go to lib and I'm going to go to mission control, and right there is a Java Mission Control application. And so we can double click on this application here. And it's going to show up exactly the same way. Now, one bit of warning here, don't try to drag that application over into your application directory. It simply won't work in that direction. In the future, you should be able to find this with the shortcut window up here, the helper window. Now, when it comes up the first time, you're going to see this window that's very similar to this. You'll have an opportunity to take a look at what's in the JMX console. So you can take a look at some guided tours, get a quick overview, browse the mbeans, view the information files. You can also go to the flight recorder, do the very same things, look at the overview, view some of the details, analyze events. And then, of course, the last thing is the plugins. Now in the plugins, there's something I want to show you here. So we're going to go up here to the menu bar, and we're going to pull down on Help, and we're going to say Install New Software. Now, if this is the first time that you're going to do this, then it's probably a good idea to take a look at some of the plugins that are available. There are a variety of plugins that you might find interesting here. Let's take a look first at the console plugins. And if I go, the one here that just interests me the most is the JConsole plugin support. So I would definitely be clicking on that one. There's also support for the dtrace recorder, and there's a recorder for WebLogic, flight recorder plugin for WebLogic, and then finally the overflow heap analyzer. So I would probably choose those two. Now I can select them, take a look at, try to install them, and of course it's going to say, well, hey, I can't complete this, and the reason I can't complete this is because these items have actually already been installed once. So, but if you hadn't, it would go through a variety of processes, and you would go through and do the installation. So we'll cancel that back out. So that's how you get your plugins, or update, or add any additional plugins that you might be interested in. Now, if we want to go and take a look and actually open up the Java Mission Control, we can do that right here. Click on this, and you can see right now that we have actually 3 Java virtual machines that are running. There's a Glassfish virtual machine. There is actually a Java virtual machine which is running Mission Control, and then there's a Derby machine which is running out here as well. When we'll do a little bit more a little bit later on, but that gives you an idea of how you can install Java Mission Control, and then also how you would run it, and then how you can also add the plugins that are associated with it. Now that you have an idea on how Mission Control is run, let's take a look at starting this from the server. Now, server here really means an application. It could be in any type of server environment. But if you want to run the flight recorder, you're going to have to add a couple of options. And this is this -XX semicolon, or colon, plus unlock commercial features, -XX colon plus flight recorder. And those both have to be on the command line. We'll show that a little bit later in the demos when we talk about the flight recorder itself. Now, there are plenty of other command line options for controlling Java Flight Recorder. And again, I told you that the source that you really want to go to when we're talking about Mission Control is Marcus Hurt and his blogs. Starting the management agent. So you want to use the com.sun management JMX remote properties, just as you normally would. There's a guidance for that in the Java 7e docs. Set. You can take a look at those, give you an idea of how to run those. Don't forget the RMI registry and the server port can be set to the same port. That's really good from a tunneling point of view. And that has been there since 7 update 4. And then finally are also the broadcast of the presence of the agent on the network. These are new, so you can do auto discovery, and then you can do the names. Now, sometimes here, a little warning here, caveat. Sometimes RMI will get the host name wrong, so it's always a good idea to specify that host name. Let's walk through the tools here. So the JMX Console highlight, this is the Java Mission Control. Simple but rich Java management extension consoles. Think of it as JConsole on a steroid type of environments. Going to give you some real-time monitoring of key indicators. You're going to see that in just a second as we go through the demos. We can set up triggers. The very simple rule engines with the triggers. You'll find that to be very, very easy for you to handle. This is great for a developer, but also really good for the system admins because they can provide a variety of custom actions and responses to those particular actions that are come out. So, once you get this particular action, how do you want to handle it? You want me to send an email? You just want a notice to come up? What do you want to have happen there? And then also there's a variety of the experimental plugins that we talked about before. So in particular, Oracle Coherence, and then also the JConsole plugin support are two of the more ready ones. So let's go now into that demo. Now, when it comes to the demos that we're going to run today, we'll run everything in a combination of NetBeans and a standalone Java Mission Control environment. If you're in an Eclipse environment, you can run Java Mission Control directly within the Eclipse environment, but that's not something that we can do yet within the NetBeans environment. But to demonstrate this, what I want to do is show you this simple program. It's called Load and Deadlock, and as you can imagine, it's does exactly that. We have an allocation thread here, which is going to just continually run and keep updating 400,000 or 40,000 int entries into new temp characters, and just keep moving things around and around as we update that as we go along. And then the thread lock side, we'll pass in two objects, L1, which is lock 1, and the other one is L2 is lock 2. And basically, we're going to synchronize on those two objects. And obviously, what we're going to do down here in the main is we're going to run, the first thing we'll do is we'll get a locker thread, the first thread, and then the second thread. And then we'll go through and we'll initialize both the first one and the second one, locking each one on the other one. And then we'll run the allocation thread. We'll start it. We'll start the first thread, and we'll start the second thread. That's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and we'll just get this running and started. And so we'll come over here, press run, take a look here, and we should see this running in just a second. In fact, what I'm going to do is hop over here into the Oracle Java Mission Control, and we now see the load and the deadlock, which is there. So we're going to start the JMX console from there. It's going to start up here in just a second, and we begin to see the loads already occurring here. We can see the machine CPU usage starting to spike and go up. We can see the Java Virtual Machine CPU usage here as well. And then we can take a look at our physical memory as it goes across. We can see in dials up above here the used Java memory heap, and the Java Virtual Machine CPU usage, and the life set of the set fragmentation. Now, what's kind of cool about this is I'm going to use on my Mac, and I have a little pad to the side, so I'm going to actually focus right here on the processor window, and just by scrolling back and forth, I can adjust what that width is that I'm looking at and what the time periods are that I'm looking at. And I can expand them out, shrink them back in, do whatever I want to do as far as that goes there. The other thing that we can do here is we can do a right click. Now you notice it's still collecting data there even though I've got it expanded out. So let's go ahead and do a right click, and let's just say, just show me the last minute. And now I'm just looking at what is the last minute there. And again, we can collapse this, get focus again here, and we can collapse that down to where we're looking at just that last minute of data that's going on. We can see we're kind of getting these humps and valleys that are going through here, and our CPU usage is spiking, and then we're probably doing a garbage collection, then it's going to spike again and go back and forth. Now we can also go through here and we can freeze these updates at any particular point in time that we want to. We'll just press this right here and say freeze. And at this point, everything is frozen. You can tell there's no more updates that are going on in the processor window. Now we can add other charts to this. For instance, let's go down here and let's go down to the memory side. And let's take a look at the down here in the threading side. And there's a thread count. And we'll add that in. And now you can see the yellow line there with the thread count. Now, finally, we can go down and take a look at the server information tab. And it's going to give us a variety of information that tells us about the machine that we're running on. This is running OS 10.8.4. It's got 2 processors, 4 gigabytes of memory, the ID of the process ID here, what hotspot version it is, 7U40. Build 43, so a little bit of older one than what most of you will be running by the time this releases. And we can take a look at our current heap size, the committed heap size, and the maximum heap size that we'll be able to achieve with this machine. Now, of course, when that's all done, one of the things that you might want to do is, say you've added a bunch of items like we did here with the total live thread count. And you're thinking, well, really what I want to do is I just want to reset everything. So just take it back, give me the screen the way it initially started with, so I can go up here to this button up here, which is the reset default mission control default tabs. It says OK, and we get reset. And we're back exactly where we were. The screens are in the presentations the way they initially were started up. And down here, the memory thread count that we had was removed. So that kind of takes care of the general side. So let's move now to the MBeams. So we're going to click on MBeams. And in here, we can look at a variety of different attributes that are coming in here. So let's start with threading. We can see here the thread count that we have 16 threads. We can also go up here and look at the deadlock thread count, and we notice that there are 2 deadlock threads in this. So this is nice to be able to get this information that's coming in here as well. Let's go take a look at the memory for a little bit. Memory pool, I should say. And we'll take a look at the memory pool, go to the code cache. And looking at the code cache information, we'll go down here and take a look at usage. And we can see the amount of what we have committed, number of events, max size, how much has been used, at this particular point in time. Now we can change a few attributes if we wanted to. Any of these here that are in yellow, we could make a change to them, and we could change the usage threshold or whatever we wanted it to be. Collection usage threshold, we could change that as well. Now let's go over to the operations tab here. Actually, let's go back to threading first, and then we'll go to the operations tab. And we can take a look here. We can say find deadlock threads. And we execute this, and we can see that the value is 13 and 12. Of course, that doesn't give us a very good idea other than knowing that it's thread 13 and thread 12. There's better ways that that we might be able to do this. So now let's go back to attributes, and we take a look at the attributes, and we can update the interval numbers that we have here. For instance, visible columns, update interval. Dead thread lock count, that's a good example. So instead of every 5,000 milliseconds, we could make it every 500 milliseconds. Now let's go back to our attributes here for a minute. Now the last thing that we can do here is let's select thread count. And then we're going to visualize the thread count. And so we can add the chart, new chart that's added. And then if we go back to our general tab now, you'll see that we now have a chart down here which is charting the thread counts. I could have added it to one of these others. It doesn't make much sense to be able to do that. And we can simply remove that as well just by pressing this right here. So let's cover one last thing in MBeans, and let's go down to the trigger tab down here at the bottom. And let's see if we can trigger some events, particularly those that are related to CPU usage. So we'll go to condition first. And we're going to change the max trigger value to be do something anytime the CPU usage is above, say, 30%. So it's sustained over 1 second. And we'll limit this period, we could say to 60 seconds each, but let's just change it to 5 so that you'll see the frequency of these particularly coming up. Now that we've set the limit period down to 5, let's go ahead and we'll just turn on this value. And we should see in just a second or two here where the max value is obtained. And there goes the alert, which was kind of exactly what we were expecting it to have happen once every few seconds there. Now, if I close that, I'll probably be getting another one of those here in just another a few seconds. And now you can see there were 2 alerts that occurred. They occurred actually just within 30 seconds of each other. So we can see that we're using more than 30% of the CPU volume at any one point in time. We can clear those alerts, close this window. Go back, we can turn this alert back off. Let's set our trigger values back up to what they were initially, once every 60 seconds. Now that's it for MBeans. So let's turn our focus to the last piece here, which is the runtime. In the runtime environment, we can look at a variety of things here. We've already kind of seen the processor usage. That was on the general screen. It's exactly going to be it's exactly the same presentation that's right here. But coming back to the runtime, what we can look at is some of the key properties here. And so we can say things like star AWT, and we'll get all of the properties that are related to AWT. In this case, the AWT toolkit, JWAT graphics server, and the printer usage. You can use regular expressions in this particular case down here as well. We can take a look at memory. We could see the physical memory, the basic key attributes of what we would look at here. Garbage collection, how many times, how long it's taking, what the duration is with each one of these garbage collections, memory pools, and then threads. Now remember, we talked about threads once before, and we said there's a better way of doing deadlock detection. And so we've gone to the live threads down here in the runtime, and let's just go to deadlock detection here. And we can see we've got 2 threads, thread 3 and thread 4, which are blocked. And the owner of those locks is thread 3. So thread 4 is owned by thread 3. That's what's causing the lock there. And thread 4 is where the other lock is coming from. A variety of other information that we might want to take a look at. We could look at allocations. See who's really allocating this. The JMX server connection is actually accruing most of it. Some CPU profiling. Where is most of the work coming from? And if we take a look at the CPU usage, we can see that all of the CPU usage is in thread 2, and we would expect it to be there because that's where all the memory allocation is occurring, and it's just sitting there in a loop going back and forth. Now, there are a lot of other features that exist within the Java Mission Control. Certainly, a lot more information that we can take a look at. Now that we looked at the demo, we want to look at another piece here. We're not going to be able to look at this in full details, but the Java Flight Recorder, here are some of the highlights that you want to look at. So we talked about this before, being a real high-performance JVM event recorder. It does produce binary recordings, but these recordings are really self-describing, self-contained chunks. So they're a standalone type of environment once they go out. They do contain runtime profile information. So you'll get a whole idea of what goes on. You can run the recorder. It can be run continuously, or you can run it for just a short term. Now, when you run it continuously, whenever something happens, the data is dumped. So you got to think about this as like having a black box for the Java virtual machine. Now, we'll do more on Java Flight Recorder in another screencast, but I want to, at this particular point in time, go in and just show you a quick demo of how you would get Java Flight Recorder started using the load and thread demo that we were using before. This is by no means a comprehensive investigation of what's going on with Flight Recorder, but just give you an idea on how you can get it started, how you can get things running. So if we take a look here at the load and deadlock Java virtual machine that's running, we know we've already gone through the MBean server that's running here. We can take a look at the Flight Recorder, and we'll notice that there are no recordings running. Now, we can start them right away, but before we do that, I want to hop over here into the Java Mission Control load and deadlock project that we have in NetBeans. I want to show you just a special little piece over here. And that is, before you go and run this, you've got to set those properties. And here the properties have come up, and we can see here, if we hop down here into the run section, what you need to add is this right here. So we're going to just go to Customize. And we can see the XX colon plus Flight Recorder and XX colon plus Unlock Commercial Features. So those are the two that you really have to add in there. If you uncheck those, of course, they're going to go away. You're going to have to remember what those virtual machine options are. So that's all you have to do to be able to get it to run. I've already got it set up. So we can go back here to the Java Mission Control. And we can say, okay, let's start a flight recording. And we'll start the flight recording. We have two choices when we go to start a flight recording. And one is that we can do a fixed time, so we could do this for 1 minute. But in this case, I want to do a continuous recording. And we're going to do the continuous on server. And that's a low overhead configuration. It's safe for continuous use in production environments. I could set other event management settings up. So I could go to the template manager here and really customize what I wanted to do. But we're just going to use continuous here. And we'll press finish. And we should notice here real quickly that there's a recording which is going. We know this is a continuous recording because of the infinite sign, which is right here. We could also run a recording, start the flight recording. That was just a fixed times. And we can do it profiling on service. So this is just a profile type of environment that we want to run. And you'll notice that we have two of them. Also notice here that the countdown is going on, 55, 54, and so on and so forth. But while that's running, let's just go over here to My Recording. And we're just going to double click on this. And last part of the recording, we'll take that. We're going to dump the recording so we can go take a look at it. Notice we see similar type of controls at the top, heap usage, total CPU usage. A little different here than we got a GC pause time. So we'll be able to take a look at a variety of environments that are here. But this will give us a general idea, at least how the execution goes and how things start up. And we can see here also the various intervals that we're looking at here as far as the events, when the events were coming in, a whole bunch of information that's here that we'll cover in the next screencast that we're going to do specifically that's related to Java Flight Recorder. Some final information, some resources that you probably want to take a look at here. So the home page, of course, is oracle.com/mission control. And forums, if you have any questions, concerns, or issues, you can take a look at the forums as listed here. 2 Twitter handles that you probably want to start following if you're interested in this. One is Mission Control, Java Mission Control, and the other one is Hurt, which is for Marcus Hurt. The blog for this is Marcus Hurt's blog. That's primarily the only thing he does on that blog. And yes, there is a Facebook account for this, so you can find that information there. Thanks for listening to this screencast on the Java Mission Control.